Frank Cotton is what could be called the catalyst of the Hellraiser franchise. All the bloodshed and the gore associated with it started from the twisted greed of this one singular person. Frank's insatiable desires involving darkness, greed, and lust paved the way for his descent into madness and the unleashing of Hell's wrath. In today's video, we'll dive into Frank Cotton's harrowing journey into darkness, his manipulation of those around him, and his inevitable downfall. This video will highlight his descent from a sinful mortal to a tormented soul, forever bound by the wrath he unleashed. Before we get into our explanation though, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means everything. So thank you. Let's begin. The pursuit of forbidden pleasures. Frank Cotton was always disillusioned with the mundane pleasures of the world, seeking new extremes. A criminal by profession, his deeds had always pushed the boundaries of both morality and legality. However, as they say, the devil always charms, and Frank, despite his sinister nature, possesses an undeniable charisma, a trait that makes his dangerous appeal all the more potent. Once, on a fateful journey to the African land of Morocco, Frank happened to encounter a mysterious merchant. It was this man who presented Frank with a strange artifact, the Lament Configuration, a puzzle box said to grant access to realms of unimaginable pleasure. Owing to his perverse nature, Frank was instantly intrigued and purchased the box before returning to his deceased mother's home in America to unlock the secrets of the box. Once there, being driven by his limitless curiosity and lust for new sensations, Frank solves the puzzle. But what he would have expected to be a hunt for pleasure soon turned out to be his most fatal mistake. The Lament Configuration summoned the Cenobites, which were beings from an otherworldly dimension of pain and torment. Led by their leader Pinhead, the Cenobites delivered Frank a brutal lesson. They could reach beyond the limits of flesh, but the problem was that they were not bound by human definitions of pleasure. Hooks and chains immediately tore into Frank as he was dragged into a dimension of torment governed by Leviathan, the enigmatic ruler of Hell.
Are you alright?
Resurrection and manipulation. Years later, Frank's older brother, Larry Cotton, moved into the old family home with his second wife Julia and his daughter Kirsty Cotton. By this point, they had lost touch with Frank, and Larry believed his brother to be wandering the world somewhere, leading a lecherous life. Anyhow, even the house bore absolutely no traces of Frank's horrific torture and demise, apart from the fact that his walls were still soaked in his lingering darkness. A few days after shifting to the home and being completely unaware of the past incidents of the house, Larry was undertaking a routine chore where he accidentally cut his hand on a rusty nail. This led to his blood being spilled everywhere in the house and, finally, on the very spot where Frank had been brutally murdered. This seemingly insignificant act triggered a strange miracle. The blood provided the spark for Frank's resurrection from the dead. Frank emerged from hell, but only as a deformed, partially regenerated being. He was no longer human. All that remained of his body was the decayed combination of muscle and bone, which served as a testament to his suffering. However, he was still conscious, needing to feast on the flesh of a few humans to regenerate completely. Frank was surprised to see his former lover and sister-in-law Julia in the house, who herself was bored with her husband and her marriage and was yearning for her former flame. Larry didn't know this yet, but Frank and Julia had begun an illicit affair on his wedding day. When Frank, in his half-human form, encounters Julia, she initially has a hard time digesting the fact that it is indeed Frank in this pathetic condition. Despite his monstrous form, Frank's charisma upon Julia was unfaded. He wasted no time in seducing her once again, convincing her to assist in his regeneration by arranging human flesh for him. Driven by her lasting obsession with Frank, Julia agrees to the arrangement. Using her beauty and charm, she starts luring unsuspecting men into her home on the pretext of sex. Once inside, the men are murdered mercilessly, while Frank devours their flesh and continues to restore his own flesh gradually. Each sacrifice brought Frank closer to his original form, and Julia's compliance with the crimes only deepened her own descent into moral depravity.
Oh, stay with us. We can all be happy here.
The return of the past. Whatever stability this macabre arrangement held till now was completely unraveled when Larry's daughter, Kirsty, became suspicious about Julia's secretive behavior. This leads her to discover Frank in his monstrous form. In the chaos that ensues, Kirsty seizes the Lament Configuration and flees the house. In a terrified and desperate state, Kirsty unintentionally solves the puzzle, once again summoning the Cenobites. Upon their arrival, the Cenobites immediately wanted to kill her in the same way they killed Frank, but Kirsty pleads and bargains for her life. She promises to lead them to Frank, the one who had escaped their grasp, in exchange for her freedom. The Cenobites are intrigued by the prospect and agree to pursue Frank instead. Meanwhile, back at the house, Frank continues to be aided by Julia, who this time offers her own husband as a sacrifice for Frank, who completes his ghastly transformation by murdering Larry and donning his skin. When Kirsty returns home, she's greeted by a man she believes to be her father, but Frank's malicious nature seeps through his newly donned skin as he tries to violate Kirsty. Upon realizing the truth, she exposes Frank's deception, which enrages him as he tries to stab her with a knife. However, in his fury, Frank accidentally stabs Julia, draining her without any remorse at all. The Wrath of Hell. With Kirsty now cornered, Frank's triumph seemed imminent, but there was more to his story. As he relishes over his escape, he fails to notice Kirsty using the Lament configuration to summon the Cenobites. The hooks and chains return, piercing Frank's flesh. His cries of anguish echoed as the Cenobites delivered their grim judgment. Frank is torn apart and dragged back into hell. In this second Hellraiser movie, Julia is resurrected by Dr. Channard and empowered by Leviathan. As Frank reached out to her, hoping for salvation, she exacted her revenge, tearing his heart from his body and echoing the words he had once used to betray her. Nothing personal, babe. Marvelous verdict. Frank Cotton's story is a cautionary tale of uncontrolled desire and its destructive consequences. Frank's life was defined by an insatiable hunger for lust, a hunger that led him to defy natural and supernatural boundaries. However, he always believed himself to be above consequence, which led him to even challenge the forces of hell. His actions set into play a morbid chain of events that drew countless others into the Cenobites' orbit, each one lured by the promise of forbidden pleasure. The Lament configuration remained a portal to hell, a symbol of humanity's dangerous curiosity and the thin line between pleasure and pain. Frank's story is also a testament to the depths of human depravity and the ultimate price of defying hell's will. That's all for this time, but if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. This is Wizard Wheezy signing off for now, but thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.